it, Sarah. All day. Hell yeah.
Arm wrestling's about to take place.
Yeah. Tom Nelson. Tom Nelson wants to know what's going on with you, Travis. How come you are throwing a lot of shade towards Devon? He says that you were quoted saying the other day, "How's a guy a world champion that avoided the top tournaments for the last 20 years?" So,
well, first of all, that was not the other day. That thing that is looping across the internet was a year and a half ago. And listen, I said what I said. I believe it's true. And I have no problem with people saying that I am jealous and a hater, because you know what? I am. I am extremely fucking jealous that I have 15,000 subscribers and this guy's got 8 million or some shit. I am very fucking disturbed if he is actually making $50,000 every time he goes to Dubai. I am fucking extremely fucking jealous. Yeah. So, but I also too know that I absolutely love that guy, and I am just as jealous of him as I am Larry Wheels and Igor Mazurenko and anybody else who I think has the opportunity to do what I probably should be doing. So it is a internal problem. I am working on it. The good thing is that it's not that big a deal. I am pretty sure that Devon knows that I do not hate him. I actually have no problem. I actually love the guy. I think Jerry knows that too, but I do not like Jerry on competition day. I don't like the way the motherfucker acts like he's my daddy or something. I don't like it. And I know that when I win, Jerry does not like it. And I think it's okay. So, Tom, that video that you are watching was a year and a half ago, and it is what it is.
let me just ask you, I just want to dive into that a little. So do you honestly feel that Devon doesn't belong where he does? Do you feel that he shouldn't be getting that big match against Levine, or has your whole thoughts changed from a year and a half ago?
Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. Under the current climate, he's the only match because he is the promotion. And I get that, and it's all fine. And I used to be me. I remember I would get the person, whether it was Larry Wheels or whoever it was at the time, and they would thrust me into the spotlight, and I would control all the situations. And I did it with the WAL. I did it with the UAL. I've done it with Igor. I mean, you know, you're talking. I went to, you know, over there in 2004 to 2009, 4 times a year. I had a 5-match contract, $30,000 a year, five each time. You know, I got that when I was 26 years old. So now that it's not in my hands, then it breeds these comments of, what the fuck is going on? I should be that guy. But I know it comes from a jealous place. And also too, I just really can't believe that, I really don't believe he's making that kind of money, but it appears that that's the perception that they are giving. So yeah, and listen, if he can gather the money, if he can garner the promotion, then he deserves to be the guy. And after the performance against Michael Todd in a one-on-one environment, it is okay that he is our representative from North America. I have no problem with that. However, we both know that there are 5 other people that feel that they should be that guy too. And if we're all not there, there's going to be those guys that throw shade on the whole event. That's all.
Jerry, how do you feel on the whole topic of Devon being the guy going up against Levine right now? Do you think he's deserving of that position right now?
I like Devon. I think that his social media presence is so strong that they're that's moved him up more slots than someone else, right? I mean, if you're that popular online, they want that match to be the draw. I mean, fuck, he's so popular that Halfthor needed a boxing opponent, and this guy gets in there and gets to be the fucking boxing opponent, right? So I'm like, holy shit, it would have been better if fucking like my 7-year-old went in and fought the fucking guy, right? But whatever, right? Devin still, he's a lucky motherfucker, right? But he makes it happen. So he's aggressive, assertive, and his social media presence. And every time you turn around, Devin is flying out somewhere. He's in Australia doing fucking videos. He's in India doing videos. He's all over the place. So I mean, he's gathering that following, and where like I'm in Massachusetts, right? So I mean, it's not like I'm not the world traveler. I go to work every day, right? So I'm probably like the same boat as Travis, where let's just say I'm just jealous Devin's getting this opportunity, which is just fueling me now to make sure I train harder so that I can actually go in and do what I should do on the table and not just fuck off.
Let me ask you guys, what do you guys both think separated Devin from the rest? Was it the social media?
Yeah.
I think Devin loves arm wrestling more than me. I mean, I think that he really fucking enjoys on a daily basis fucking sparring. And I just happen to be very fucking good at it, but it ain't like I would rather play poker. I would rather, watch a fucking youth league football game. The training part of it, the gathering to train is a nuisance to me. And I think that it's not to him. And I also think that he was deprived a little bit, meaning that he did have to work. And he had a fucked up job, I guess, that made him not even be on location. So now you take a situation where he's retired military at 40 years old, and he has the entire world at his feet, meaning free time, travel, and I'm not saying he's not. I don't know what his level of interest is with his kids. Like, there's no doubt he's a great fucking human being. I'm sure he's an outstanding father. However, I'm not sure that there's one of his kids is trying to turn pro in an athletic event that would garner his attention. Like, if his kid was a power lifter, he would have an hour less time to train arm wrestling because he would want to be over there handling that business. It seems to me like his kids are actors, and there is no father, son, father, daughter activity that fucking controls their life. Like, I mean, my kids and we have 2 training sessions every day, but not because they want to. It's because I want them to do it. So it's just all about what you're interested in. I think the guy's interested in arm wrestling. Like, he's interested in he really enjoys it. He enjoys the grind. And I think the grind is the worst part of it. To me, it's just trying to gather the glamour, the attention, and most importantly, to try to maneuver it in a financial situation.
When would, for both of you guys, when was it that you guys went to the next level as far as being, a celebrity, everybody knowing you guys as an arm wrestler? Was it when you guys got on WAL, when you were signed contract with WAL?
I don't know how Jerry felt, but I felt like the fucking king of the world at the AAA Nationals right after I won. Like, it was really, the Nationals was so much fun back in the day, and nobody made any money, but it was the shit. And the amount of pride that you could gather coming down into that atrium or that ballroom after the tournament. To me, that's where it started. Like, holy shit. Like, I'm the guy here if you win.
Same thing with me. When I went to my first Nationals in 94. So what was I, 21? And I beat Dave Randall, right? Who was like a renowned champion. And so instantly fell in love with the sport. And that was, for me, one of the things that opened the door and made it so it was awesome. And then the Yukon Jack was probably another thing, because that's the one that really put it on TV, right? So that's when people were calling and saying, "Holy shit, I just saw you on TV." And so that was awesome too, because there it was on ESPN, and right after the Monster Truck Show at 1 a.m. But I'd stay up to watch it, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
And in 2004, Saban Matossian, the guy who made Pulling John, he actually filmed the national championships in Indiana and put that shit on ESPN, and it fucking looped. It looped. I mean, I know that had to piss Jerry off, because that fucking show was coming on every fucking night at 1 o'clock in the morning for like 2.5 years. People would call me every night and say, "Dude, you're not going to believe this." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, the show's on. Please don't call this late." But it was me, Ron Bath, and Mike Solaris. And there was 3 shows, and it was a big deal.
Yep.
So I'd say that's the first time that I thought that I was cooler than I actually was about that time.
And then when did social media start to change arm wrestling?
I remember there was a Northeast message board, probably 2000 to about 2005. And I could be wrong, but I remember if I wanted to know about arm wrestling, that's where I would go. That's where the tournaments were. That's where the shit talking was, everything. And it was a bunch of anonymous people too. So it was real juicy. And then slowly but surely around 2005, 2006, you would go on there and there wouldn't be much action. And you would hear people start saying, "Oh, this board's getting ruined because of Facebook." And then MySpace or whatever the hell it was. And then before long, that board went. It was like, it was like stage 5 cancer. You got fucking, you was fine yesterday. Today you got a headache. The guy tells you got a fucking cancerous tumor. You're fucking dead in 10 days. That board went right down when Facebook kind of got attracted.
And I think Arm TV too.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to figure out now is I'm trying to figure out the timeline of when did the whole dynamics of arm wrestling change? When did it go from being, kind of an underground sport where you had to go to each tournament to be relevant and all of a sudden now social media is king, and now you can portray yourself as the man on social media. You don't got to start competing as so many events.
I believe Gary Roberts could tell you that exact date. And what I mean by that is everybody was an Arm TV member. That's where you got your information. And then somehow these fucking cell phones made it possible for everyone to be Gary. And it was like a fucking fast death as well. Gary went from, Gary was the man, dude. Like, Gary was the man. And then all of a sudden you hear Gary ranting and raving about these fucking videos on their phones and cameras. And then boom, a year later, he's out of business because he says there's no one's going to wait around and pay the $20 for his edited version when they've been watching these clips real time.
Jerry, what about you? When did you notice a big change with social media and all?
I'd say it's a repeat of what Travis just said. He hit it pretty good. The Gary Roberts was someone that you would lean on, and then boom, next thing you know, there's people at tournaments and you're watching it on Facebook Live, so you're seeing it as it's happening, which I think really blew it up. So, and I guess, yeah, as soon as the smartphone started, with great digital quality and the ability to upload live feeds on Facebook, I think that's what drove it up about fucking 20 notches,
And then WAL comes into the picture, which what year was that around? Was that like 2012, 2013, if I'm correct?
Yeah, I tell you, man, my fucking memory and my age I have no fucking idea when any of that shit happened. But I think the UAL was first. I know that UAL was first.
UAL started in like 2009, right? And then I had that match. Fucking, when was it? Hold on, it's right here. Yeah, July 24th of 2010 was when me and John had our super match. And I think that was the first championship. You were supposed to be there, Travis. And you weren't there.
And I was negotiating, and that was a football season event too, where I don't know if it was the Ohio State or there was some camp that I wanted to go to, and I'm trying to negotiate with this guy, Robert Drank, who, Robert came into the world, and it was one thing he did wrong was he talked about the amount of money that he was paying different people. Well, as soon as I found out that he had cut a deal with John Brzenk to give him money, I was like, okay, well, as soon as this guy comes to me, he's going to get the real number. So it started off with, could I come arm wrestle? I think I was going to arm wrestle 100 people left-handed at the very start of it, when it first started the negotiation. And then the things changed a couple times. And to make a long story short, he just tried to lowball me at the end. And I was like, nah, bro, I'm good. If I can't get the right amount of money. And of course I was looking to get a bunch of money and not really arm wrestle, which was the beginning of that little scheme where it was like my mouth and the promotability is enough. Like, don't ask me to do any fucking wrist curls. And then right around that time, so he's doing some tournaments and they're just on the West Coast. And he's claiming that the West Coast guys are the best guys in the world, just like Igor does in Europe. And so us East Coast guys are like, man, fuck that. But he was, he had a little bit of cheese. So he would make it, he would try to make it as good as he could. But once again, when you try to take care of everybody, meaning there's multiple weight classes left and right, you got venues, and you start finding out that the arm wrestlers don't always have your back from a participation standpoint, then he started tightening his belt up a little bit. And it was right around the time where I had other interests, meaning my son at this point is, probably 10, 11 years old. And we're starting, I'm coaching his football team and we're going to these camps and we're doing all this stuff. So it was just right at the beginning. And then when the demise of arm wrestling, and I don't know if it's a demise, but the Game of Arms started sending out these one-page contracts to the guys that they wanted. And right away, Robert Drank in the UAL reacted. He brought a rack of people out and signed everybody to this other contract. The only problem is he signed so many people. So many people wanted to know when, where, and how they were going to get paid. Like, let's go. And then the Game of Arms ended up getting the guys they wanted because you didn't have to arm wrestle the good guys. You only had to arm wrestle your guys, the guys that were on the show, and they were actually paying $3,000, and they had AMC, which at the first no one knew, but then eventually everybody was like, holy shit, this shit's coming on after The Walking Dead. And you talk about jealousy. I mean, Devon was the most jealous person in the history of the world. He used to come to the shooting. He'd come when we were shooting to just because he fucked up and he was kind of waiting around, didn't want to sign the contract. But the Game of Arms was big enough that you would definitely sign the contract, only because it only stopped you from doing other reality shows, which no one was fucking doing. The problem was, once the Game of Arms brought in Steve Kaplan to start the business of real arm wrestling to run off the reality show, there were so many athletes already signed to the UAL. They saw the hype and the glamour of the Game of Arms, so they started wanting to get out of their contracts and join the WAL. And it started this shitstorm where people were trying to get out. And eventually, with the hype of the Game of Arms and the new money that the WL had, it forced the UAL to either shit or get off the fucking toilet. And he decided to just fold up.
So let me get this straight now. So the UAL was the big guy in town. They were the original first guy to come in, start signing contracts with athletes and all, correct?
Well, he signed contracts because the Game of Arms guys were already in a Game of Arms contract. he took the rest of the guys, which there were a lot of guys that were bitter because they didn't get on the Game of Arms because it's only 15 people, right? So it wouldn't matter who they picked. As soon as they got to 15, the rest of the world is pissed off, kind of like they are about these two amateurs getting arm wrestled, right? It just fucking disturbs them. So then once the WAL, they wanted to have the contracts only because the UAL had already had everyone else. So, but it was definitely Robert Drank that pushed this contract really hard, and then it backfired because the WAL, they had a method now. It wasn't strange to sign contracts because people were already in them and trying to get out of them.
Okay, so with the UAL, that kind of started the whole, I guess, the back and forth between WAL and UAL. How did they find the UAL guys? How did you get picked as being one of the contracted guys? How did Robert do that? How did he pick those guys?
He took the best guys. So he would have tournaments if you won. And listen, he contracted guys that didn't deserve contracts. But what he didn't want them to do was to sign with the WAL or the Game of Arms. So he kind of took everybody. I mean, it was
okay.
It was
but
funny.
the main thing he was looking for though was they were running these tournaments. You won the tournament. Now you got the position. You got the contract with UAL.
He wanted you to not sign a contract that wouldn't allow you to arm wrestle with him. So he went ahead of that and made sure that he had a contract that not only could you arm wrestle with him, but he could make it so you couldn't arm wrestle with the other people.
Now, how did the Game of Arms? So they came out first. That wasn't, WAL was not in existence yet. Game of Arms production company and I guess reality show came out. And how did they go about picking the people they wanted on the show? Was it characters? Was it being the best arm wrestler?
They sent Ben Murray out with one camera and one assistant for about a year and a half. He went to, his first stop was that Ryan something memorial out in Vegas or out in California. And the first two guys he saw were Don Underwood and Alan Fisher pulling the overall. And Alan Fisher won. Ben took that footage back to his guys and said, hey, this arm wrestling thing has been slow, but I think I got something this weekend. And what sold everyone was the fact that Alan Fisher weighed 160 pounds and he beat Don Underwood. And it just so happens that Don Underwood and Alan became the two main figures. So they both got paid $6,000 instead of $3,000. And their job was to start giving Ben a little bit of direction. Where should he go next? What tournaments are they pulling at? How can they start to gather more characters? They ended up a few months later at the Arnold Classic. It's my first paying job with CrossFit. CrossFit gave me $5,000 to host their competition and to put an arm wrestling table. And I ended up hiring Neil Pickup, John Brzenk, and Devon Larratt. And then Michael Todd begged to let him in. So I let him in too, just because he was, he was just a little guy. He was just a little guy to run around with us. He really wasn't a man, but he wanted to be. So he ended up coming too. It was our first gig, and I'm out in the middle of the CrossFit area, and I mean, I'm working, and I'm scared because this is my first time. And right in the middle of this heat, Don Underwood and Ben Murray try to come out and confront me about some arm wrestling hype. You know what I'm saying? And usually it would have been fun, but because I was so new, I just put the mic down to my side. I leaned over to Ben. I said, my man, get the fuck away from here before you fucking get me fired, you dumb fucks. And I told Don, I got real serious with Don, just because I didn't want to get fired. And so they left. And then that was my introduction to Ben Murray. So that was it. When Ben Murray met me, he did not ever want to talk to me again. It was over because of how aggressive I was because of what they did. So I'm out of the Game of Arms. From that day forward, there was never no talk of me joining them. 4 months later, they're at the end of their casting, and I'm bringing Devon Larratt Dave Chafee, Bart Wood, they're all coming to the CrossFit Games, and there's an actual arm wrestling match in the middle of the CrossFit Games on mid-court between Dave Chafee and Michael Todd. Ben Murray came there so that he could have Dave Chafee, Devon, or not, no, who was it? Dave, Bart. There were two others that were there. He wanted to take them to headquarters so that they could do this lie detector test. There was like, out of the 20-some characters, 3 or 4 of them had to go through a big process just because it was needed for the production company and the network. So because those guys were in LA, they used those guys that I paid for their travel so that they wouldn't have to. Well, once Ben Murray got to the CrossFit Games, he saw me rocking the mic and running that arm wrestling event. And he went back and told the guys, he's like, listen, I know it's late and it's, we're going to start shooting in a couple of weeks, but we need Travis. So then the negotiating started, and they had already had the teams and everybody. So I ended up joining the Erie team just by happenstance of them needing to get with those guys in LA. So I kind of lucked into that.
Jerry, how did you get locked in with UAL?
Well, in 2009, I ended up going to that Ryan something, the wrestling championship out in California. Also, I think in Bakersfield. And
it was probably just the same tournament, either the year before or the year after, whatever it was.
Yeah. Well, the year I went was 2009, and I won. I won the overall. And it was a fucking stacked tournament. I couldn't believe it because
they had some money, right?
Right. Yeah, money. And it was Ryan Sheets, I think, was the dude's name, right? And so I hung out with one of the New England Patriots was there too, Stephen Neal. And then Robert was there as a spectator. He pulled up in a red Ferrari, right? And so he's like, what's this all about? Yada, yada. He wants to put something together. Then I won the overall. So he was, wanted me to come out there and be a part of the first one. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'll go, depending on money and shit. He goes, I'll take care of it. Da, da, da. So I ended up, that's when I flew up because that Venice Beach was the first one. And I won that. And then the thing I liked about what he did was we did the super match. And then after the super match, then he ran the regular tournament. So I would be able to enter the regular tournament to win more money, so. That was, that worked out well for me because I won the first, 3 or 4 of them, right? And then won the tournament part of it too.
I think you're freezing up on us a little, Jerry.
Somebody's calling Jerry's ass.
I am? What?
There you go.
That better? So I was saying is that I don't know where it left off, but that's one of the things I liked about Robert's meets was that I could go do the super match and then enter in the open class after.
Okay. So what I'm trying to get at all this is I want to figure out what was the criteria that WAL was looking for when they were looking to sign a contract with the athletes. Was it their social media presence? Was it just the quality of arm wrestler? I'm just trying to figure out what they were using as the criteria.
I think they needed a whole well-rounded character. So it would start off, if you were really good, that was an option, but they couldn't take all the really good guys because some of them are pretty boring. So you start off with one guy you like, and then to save money, it's better to get his 3 or 4 buddies that live in his same town. It's a lot cheaper that way than to get 4 guys from different states and put them on one team. So to me, there was Don Underwood, and then they went to Kansas City because of Don, and they picked up on Don's 5 friends. Don probably told 3 people, and then they told 3 people, and then there was probably 3 people there Don didn't even want there. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden, it was ultimately up to the casting directors. Once they'd come into Kansas City, then they would have a big practice at the ranch, which was at Don Fritchie's house. Then there, they also met Chop, and they went to Louisiana. They go to Louisiana, they meet Craig Touye because he's the best arm wrestler in Louisiana. So that's a part of Chop's team, right? And then they went to the Arnold Classic, and that's where they met Bart. And then once Bart let them know that he had Dave Chafee, the best arm wrestler in the Northeast, or whatever he considered. So there was Alan Fisher's team, Don Underwood's team, Chop's team, and Bart's team. And then you get guys that is in that neighborhood. Each team had one transplant, meaning they could afford to bring one guy in to join a team. They just didn't want to bring 5 different people in to one team. So I ended up, because I was so late in the negotiation, I went ahead and joined the closest team to my house, which was Erie.
Okay. So now we got the Game of Arms.
I'm sorry. That's how the Game of Arms did it. The WAL didn't do anything except take the athletes that were already superstars because of the Game of Arms and let those guys know, because they knew they were the only ones that were definitely not under UAL contract.
Well, no, WAL had it where you had to go and win a regional to go to the championship, and then they changed it and said, "Oh, you just have to win one match," which was a mistake. And so we were flooded in UNLV in Vegas, and it was fucking packed, right?
Crazy.
And there was the most arms broke that day. I was like, holy shit, they had like a whole medical fucking.
Yeah, there were 7 broken arms all in the emergency room at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow.
I was like, holy shit, right? But that's because it was set up wrong, where you're letting elites go against people that are like amateurs that just want a chance. And then, you're going up there, and like, if I'm going against someone, I don't know who they are. I can't take them lightly because I want to blow through my weight class and just, right? So you go up there and you're going to go 100 miles an hour against someone that does like 5, and it's a shit show, right? But so that's how the WAL was doing it, where they just, like, I went to a qualifier for Buffalo Wild Wings, and they made it you only had to win one match. I went there, I entered, I won my match, and then I left and went to work, right? So someone on paper got to say that they beat me, right? Because I didn't stay for more than one match.
Okay, so I'm just trying to stay with the timeline here. So for what I know is, I believe the Game of Arms was shot in 2012. Am I correct with that?
I think it was a little earlier than that. I think that's like, it wasn't too much. I mean, it could have been 12. We could have been shooting in 11 or 10, and then it actually aired in, later. But it was, you know what? I don't know the exact date. But
all right, let's just put it at 2012 for now. Now,
yeah,
you guys,
so you got 2009 UAL,
okay,
2010 Game of Arms,
okay,
2011 WAL.
Okay.
And you can move that a year, but
now what year? So 2011 or so, that's when the contracts go out for the WAL athletes?
I believe the WAL athletes, I think they honestly signed. It was they signed because of ESPN. As soon as I think that we did I think there was a couple WALs that didn't make it to ESPN. And then maybe the third one, maybe 2015, is when you had to be a signed athlete, because you would sign it as you signed your entry form. And I think it was ESPN. ESPN kind of helped, or at least the league used ESPN to try to throw that in there.
Now, the reason why I'm asking all this is because I know Devon wasn't on the Game of Arms. So I'm just trying to figure out, how did Devon work his way into the WAL and come, kind of their big guy?
He showed up at the Game of Arms finale in Vegas and more or less just telling the producers, hey, I fucked up. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have not came here earlier. And now I'm ready. And then they said, no problem. We'll hook you up in season 2.
Okay, now back then, did you guys have a following then? Did you have a social media presence?
I had the exact same amount of followers I have now. I was the man. Back then, I had 15,000 people that would send me emails and wanted me to kiss babies and all that. But I thought that to me, that was like 100 million because, you could only email me, text me, or beep me with my beeper. You know what I mean? I was on top of the world. And then people kept saying that, there's this Facebook, there's this. And it wasn't even Facebook because at Facebook, you can only have 5,000 friends. And I had 5,000 in one day. But you could make a fan page. And I remember I had a fan page, which it wasn't me. Some other jackass made it. And he had like 100 people. And then I remember seeing Devon's fan page had like 10,000. I'm like, what is going on? And that was the first sign where I was like, oh, that's dumb shit. When really, I should have had a fan page. That fan page could have gotten to 100,000. And then it just gets moved to Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff. So to me, that's where I started seeing a little progress. And I knew that the shit was slipping away, was the Facebook fan page.
And Jerry, what about you? Is it around the same time range that you started seeing kind of social media get taken over with the arm wrestling community?
Yeah, same thing. And I remember when that WAL, the Game of Arms and shit was going on, I remember calling Travis. I'm like, what the fuck? Get me in. He's he was like,
fuck no.
He's like, that's exactly what he told me. He's like, fuck no, what? So you can come in and win? Fuck you. Right?
I used to tell Jerry all the time, I'm like, Jerry, all the people in your life are asking you if you know me and if you can beat me.
Yeah. It sucked when people come up and be like, you ever hear this Travis Bagent? Right? And I'm like, fuck you. Right?
That's I knew I was fucked up. I was getting on a plane one time and a guy asked me if I could beat Schoolboy. And I was like, damn, this guy's the man. Because, I was like, yeah, I can, but I understand why you think he's the man.
My doctor, he fucking said the same thing to me.
Can you beat Schoolboy?
He's like, hey, how do you think you would do against the Schoolboy guy? Right? And I'm like, this Schoolboy, fuck him. Right? And I'm like, I would fucking crush him. Yeah. Like, I don't know. He looks really good. I was like, yeah, because he's arm wrestling people on the streets in New York.